Missed opportunities sink the Sharks as they lose 5-1 to the Nashville Predators. We're going to discuss that. Tomas Hertl's quietly good start and Vlasic's future. All that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at Inside the Rink, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can subscribe on YouTube as well, or do both. Both is great. So today we're going to be digging into the Sharks 5-1 loss on Saturday night to the Nashville Predators as they kick off this long East Coast swing. And we're going to talk about Hertl's quietly good start to the season and what to do with Marc-Edouard Vlasic. But before we get into all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you guys by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So the Sharks fell to the Nashville Predators 5-1. I couldn't watch this game live, so I had it recorded. So I was just kind of checking in on Twitter while I was watching it, while I was doing other stuff, knowing I was going to watch this game on Sunday. And what I saw on Twitter versus what I expected to go into and what I actually saw was kind of different. Like it sounded like the Sharks just got their doors blown off in this game as they lose 5-1. And I came away with this game as a ton of missed opportunities for the Sharks, where they outplayed Nashville for good chunks. And UC Soros, who's an amazing goaltender, kind of kept Nashville from losing this game. And the Sharks just doing dumb things or not being able to convert on certain opportunities is what kind of made them lose this game. So, this was really the first kind of winnable game that the Sharks have had on the schedule, right? Especially after starting the first 4 games against the 4 division winners the last season. And you felt like this was the first kind of winnable game on the schedule. And the Sharks, and there's definitely another universe where the Sharks, or multiverse where the Sharks win this game, because they're not making dumb plays and not and able to kind of convert on some of their opportunities, and some of the dumb plays that come to mind, right? The Mackenzie Blackwood penalty for delay of game, which led directly to a power play, which the Predators scored on said power play, right? That's you're a goalie. You can't just hang back behind the net and hold on to the puck, right? Like, you have to do something with it. That's just a mental mistake right there. And William Eklund on I think it was the Preds' first goal, just standing in the middle of the ice, not scanning. And we know his ability to scan, doesn't scan the ice. And then I think it was Cousins or whoever scored on that goal, were just wide open. That is William Eklund needs to stick with his man there. And I'm sure William Eklund knows I need to stick with my man there. Just stuff like that, right? Where it's mental lapses just lead to opportunities, right? Giving up and then not able to kind of overcome any sort of adversity, right? We've seen this a couple times now this season with the Sharks, where just giving up goals in short term. We saw it against against Vegas, right, where you gave up 2 goals in 2 minutes, especially when you were kind of playing with Vegas for a good chunk of that game. You give up 2 quick goals, the game's over. And then this is what's happened here, right? You give up 2 goals in 12 seconds, and your offense has scored more than one goal once this season. Like, this team just is not built to generate a ton of offense, and they have to play perfectly in their own zone basically to be able to continue to you know can be able to be in any sort of game. But there was some highlights though from the game. I think Kevin LeBanc, this was easily one of his best games we've seen from him in the past couple seasons. I thought he played really, really well. Tomas Hertl, who we'll talk about a little bit more later, finally gets on the scoreboard. He now has 5 points in 5 games. So not too bad again for a team that has scored 1 goal basically for 4 of the 5 games. That's not bad to be a point per game player when your team just cannot generate offense right now. There was some other, like Ty Emerson and his NHL debut. I thought he looks pretty solid. Mario Ferraro's been having a kind of a sneaky, quiet, good season. You saw a little bit more out of Barabanov, Luke Cunnin, Luke Cunnin. I thought he played hard as well. But it's just this team right now just constantly shoots itself in the foot. And these missed opportunities are why this team just cannot get out of its own way. And going the 11-7, again, you are a team right now that is struggling to generate offense. And maybe Thomas Bordeleau has played we're at 21, 22 NHL games right now. He's going to have his ups and downs, right? That is every young player. I get the sit him for a game. I get that. Let him think about it. But at the same time, this team struggles for offense, and Tomas Bordeleau is a offensively gifted player. And you're going to continue to reward some players who we'll talk about later with ice time. And it's tough, right? To expect a young player to do all the good things, especially when you're down multiple goals, et cetera, et cetera. It's tough to kind of, this team's going to be bad. Like, the only way Tomas Bordeleau is going to get better is by continuing to play. And yes, you want to correct any issues. You want to, anything that he's doing wrong. Yes, you want to correct those. But again, Tomas Bordeleau is one of your actual offensively gifted players, and this team struggles to score offense right now. And this was a very winnable game. And going the 11-7 is just it just does, you screw up your you can't build chemistry with your forwards because you have 3 centers, and you're having to rotate constantly because, again, you have 3 centers on this team right now. It's just no way to live for a long time because you're putting more pressure on your forwards on a group that is already struggling. And I know the defense has been bad as well. And it's all bad, but having Tomas Bordeleau as your scapegoat for this game was just a puzzling decision, I will say. So we'll see if Bordeleau gets back in against the Panthers. I would assume so. Or Bordeleau's done something to be in the doghouse. Who knows? But Bordeleau just needs to be playing, right? Whether it's in the NHL or the AHL, he needs to be playing. He's not going to get better by just sitting in the press box. So, yeah, just a game of a lot of missed opportunities for the Sharks where you could have, if you just execute a little bit better on the power play. There was some solid chances, 5-on-5 and on the power plays we'll dig into here in a minute when we look at the numbers. But UC Soros is really good. And the Preds, they took advantage of their opportunities. So let's dig into what the numbers say. But first, take a quick break. Talk to you guys about our friends over at Sleeper. And Tomas Hertl scores a hat trick. The Sharks win the Stanley Cup. And if you want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. All these things are possible, except maybe the Sharks win the Stanley Cup. But to have a chance of winning big, you need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. As the official daily fantasy hockey app on Locked On NHL, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy hockey, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win up to 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. So many great players to pick from, right? You have studs like Sidney Crosby. You have Ovechkin. Maybe not McDavid right now, Cale Makar. All you have to do is pick more or less for their stats. So if you can choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, shot blocks, whatever kind of fits your fancy, they've got you covered. You heard me, Sharks fans, though, 100 times payout on Sleeper to start paying attention and get your picks right so you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right. What do the numbers say for this game? And like digging into the numbers, the Sharks played pretty close with the Preds for a good chunk of this game. And outplayed the Preds for majority of it, but again, missed opportunities. So let's look at the Sharks 5v5 versus the Preds. 46-41 shot attempts in favor of the Sharks. And it wasn't like in the third period where the Sharks kind of just, yes, they were down and they were kind of piling it on, but it was pretty close between the two for the majority of the game, right? It was 14-15 shot attempts in favor of the Preds in the first period, 18-14 shot attempts in favor of the Sharks in the second period, and then 14-12 in the third period. Actual shots at 5-on-5 was 25-24 in favor of the Sharks. Scoring chances 24-23 in favor of the Sharks. High danger 11-10 in favor of the Sharks. 1.88 to 2.18 expected goals in favor of the Preds. But the Preds got three even strength goals and 2 power play goals, and this team just can't keep shooting itself in the foot like it's been doing all season long. So usually we dig into the lines, but the lines were so screwed up when you played 11-on-7. So you had the Barabanov Hertl Duclair line, which played 8-16 together. And then the next line that played the most together was Eklund, Sturm, and LeBanc at 2-10. So it's not really worth kind of digging into what the lines did. So we'll kind of look at some of the individual performances at 5v5. Your Corsi 4 leader, one Luke Cunnin in 9:13 time on ice, had 5 shot attempts, 4, gave up 1. Actual shots on goal when Luke Cunnin was on the ice was 3-0. But some other interesting players, Kyle Burrows, who's quietly been a really, maybe not quietly, but he's been a pretty solid addition for the Sharks. And either this week or next week, we're going to kind of dig into what the numbers say about some of the defensemen and some of the defensive pairings. We'll kind of do a deep dive into them here soon. But when Burrows was on the ice, 17-8 shot attempts for 8-3 actual shots on goal. Expected goals for was 0.49. Tomas Hertl, who's having himself a very, very strong start to the season. 17-34 time on ice at 5v5, 26 shot attempts when he was on the ice, gave up 14, 13-9 shots on for when Tomas Hertl was on the ice. Expected goals for 1.23. First on the team. Second on the expected goals for was Mario Ferraro. But again, he's been bringing it every night, especially with kind of the chaotic play that's been going on around him, right? So still trying to kind of figure out the winger situation. Again, right now it's not having Logan Couture to start the season. Tomas Hertl's been bringing it every night and also been a monster in the face-off circle. Again, I'm not the biggest face-off guy, but Hertl has been an absolute monster in the face-off circle this season. Let me pull. I know he was over 70% in this game. Let me pull it up right now while I'm continuing to talk about Hertl. But again, he's got 5 points in 5 games, 4 assists with a goal. He's actually about ready to play game 7. He'll play game 700 this season. Good for him. But like face-off percentage, 53% so far. I think, like I said, I think he had 62% so far this season. His career average is 53% in the face-off, 62% in the face-off from Hertl this year. Shooting at 9%, so he's actually got a little bit, like he's kind of underperforming in the goals because his career average is at 13.4%. So he probably should have at least another goal, to be honest, from Hertl this season. But this is what you wanted to see, right? This is why you keep Tomas Hertl around, because he makes the guys around him better, and that helps your young players like your Eklunds and your Bordelos and your Zadina. I still consider Zadina a young player. Keeping these guys around and having Hertl kind of be there to help kind of to solidify the lines. It's Hertl's. Well, we might have my 75-point Hertl season is looking really good, really early into the season. And I think at some point the offense will start clicking for the Sharks here, right? I don't think they can continue just to law of averages say they can't just continue to score 1 goal a game, basically. But like I think there's a real opportunity for Hertl to play well, and especially well. William Eklund continues to get better. Again, I don't think this was Eklund's best game. Had a couple missed opportunities. I know he was kind of mad at himself there, and definitely had a defensive lapse that led to a goal. But in his Eklund's 12-24 time on ice tonight or on Saturday night, 14 shot attempts, gave up 9 to 8 for the actual shots. And then expected goals for was 0.79. Again, did have that defensive lapse, which is going to happen sometimes when you're a young player, right? But Kevin Labanc, who I talked about earlier, I thought had a strong game. 18-12 shot attempts, 11-6 shots. Expected goals for was 0.46. Defense not the greatest at 1.06. So I think Labanc's going to be kind of a staple back in the lineup now. Some of the a little frustrating because some of the guys who've had good starts to the season, like Filip Zadina and Fabian Zetterlund, both I thought had really poor games. Zadina did not play a ton in this game. He only had 8:45 time on ice at 5 even strength. Gave up 5 shot attempts, or had 5 shot attempts, gave up 14, and then 4 to 5 actual shots on goal. Don't think it was Zadina's best game. Zetterlund had a poor over the glass penalty, 7-12 with shot attempts, 2 to 6 actual shots on goal for Zetterlund. And then Peterson is, I don't think Peterson should be the center, but again, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place right now because you have, especially if you're not going to play Bordeleau, you have Hertl, Sturm, and then Luke Cunnin or Jacob Peterson as your center's spots. So I think Peterson's better suited on the wing, but he was 8-12 shot attempts, 5 to 7 actual shots on goal. So just kind of a little bit of a tough night for those guys. It's, you saw the offense make positive steps, right? They've kind of strung together some positive points the past couple of games here. But again, it's not consistent enough, and they're still not getting the great high danger chances that you're really looking for and capitalizing on the ones that they do. So I think that's going to continue to be an issue for them as they go forward. I know they play the Panthers this week, and we also play the Lightning. Lightning have been really up and down, especially without Vasilevsky. It just doesn't get easier for the Sharks until they play the Caps, who have been abysmal this season. That looks like that's your chance, I think, for your next realistic win is the Washington Capitals. But that's on a Sunday afternoon, your last game on a 5-game road trip before you head home and have 3 days off or 4 days off until you play again. So, and you also, that's your 3rd game in 4 days. So it could definitely be one of those tough, just get us home type of games. So before we continue, we talk about Marc-Edouard Vlasic here. Just need to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our good friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, or just like simple things like windshield wipers. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home the win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. Marc-Edouard Vlasic was benched in this game and has been arguably the Sharks' worst player this season. And it's really not that close with how bad Marc-Edouard Vlasic has been this year. So on the season, if you look at like expected goals, if you look into your analytics, right? Expected goals per 60 allowed. So basically, when you're on the ice, how much are you kind of letting the other team do what they want? He is one of the worst in the league. So on ice expected goals per 60 minutes, 728. So this basically means he gives up every 60 minutes, he would give up 7 goals with his play. On ice high danger shot attempts per 60 minutes at 1046. So he's giving up 10 high danger shots every 60 minutes. So I know what you're thinking. Yes, the defense is really bad, et cetera, et cetera. It's not just like it's Vlasic, guys. He's been bad. Matt Benning hasn't had a great season, but like here's some of the other players. So Nikolai Knizhov, 209 on ice expected goals per 60 minutes. So he'd be giving up 2 goals in 60 minutes with his expected play. Ty Emberson in his 1 game, 264. Kyle Burroughs had a really strong start to his Sharks career, 266, and Burroughs is playing way more minutes than Vlasic, right? Henry Thrun, 273 on ice expected goals. Mario Ferraro, 419. Jan Ruda, 517. Matt Benning, 606. I don't know what you do with Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who still has 3 seasons left at his $7 million, has been one of the great Sharks. It's a tough position to be in with when you're kind of dealing with a great Shark or a great player who still has a lot of money and term left on their contract, but clearly is in the decline. And last year, he played pretty well for his minutes and stuff, but I wonder if David Quinn is going to have to think long and hard about putting Vlasic in the press box for a while. Especially when you have, Knizhov and Emberson, and whenever they want to bring back Henry Thrun, you have some legitimate options who are going to be part of your future, right? Emberson, Knizhov, Thrun are all 25 or younger, and yes, Thrun and Thrun and Emberson are both last year's of their deals, but you're like RFAs. You can control their future, and Knizhov is signed here for 2 years. It's a tough choice that David Quinn's going to have to make here, or David Quinn, and I guess it's probably mostly David Quinn, but like you can't just keep trotting Vlasic out there and expect the same results. Like, it has been abysmal, right? And if you're going to hold players like Thomas Bordeleau and Giovanni Smith accountable for their play, you got to do the same thing with Marc-Edouard Vlasic, because, right, that's, if you do it to one player, you got to do it to the other, especially if you're trying to set your culture and hold everybody accountable for their actions. I think you need to, especially against the teams that you're playing recently or coming up here, I think you need to let Vlasic sit for a little. Maybe he's not fully healthy, right? He did deal with an injury, and came back, missed a game and came back and played. Maybe he's not fully healthy, still dealing with that. But I don't think you can trot Vlasic out there. And I know, like, it's tough to watch him out there just not kind of be a shell of himself right now. And again, he's got 3 years left at his $7 million contract. Does have a 3-team no movement clause, but you would have to attach a massive asset to move the Vlasic contract. And again, 3-team no trade. So if he doesn't want to go anywhere, he's not going anywhere. But think you'd probably have to attach the Pittsburgh pick to move Vlasic. And I'm not in the business of attaching the Pittsburgh pick with to move Vlasic right now, because it's just, I think maybe letting him rest, see if maybe he's not healthy, let him kind of sit for a little bit. And maybe when you get home, the schedule softens up a little bit. You could maybe think about, bring him back for there, or if maybe a player gets hurt and stuff. I don't think you can waive him and send him down to the Barracuda, because you already have you already have a bunch of NHL players down there. It doesn't save you cap space. And I think it's a tough way to treat a player. You have to kind of think about that too, right? It's a tough way to treat a person who's arguably one of the best players to ever put on a teal jersey. Easily in the top 10, you can make an argument for a top 5 type of player in Marc-Edouard Vlasic. It's a tough way to handle it. That if it was just some dude, whatever, yeah, okay. But Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who's been part of this franchise, playing since he was 18, 19. It's hard to treat a guy like that that way. And I think it would not look the greatest on the organization. It's probably you might just have to ride it out with Vlasic at some point. And it's not like he's going to just retire or whatever, because he wants to keep getting paid. Maybe this eventually becomes one of those LTIR situations with Vlasic. But I don't know. Or maybe you look to buy him out in the summer. But even if you buy him out in the summer, you're starting to get your cap space cleaned up here. That's a discussion for another day. But I don't think you can continue to keep running Vlasic out there right now, because he's really, really holding the team back. And we'll see what David Quinn does here. So I think he sits at least a game or so. It's not the first time Vlasic has been benched. We'll see what happens if he does and how he responds. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow. I think we'll probably have our good friend Armando from Locked On Panthers. We'll do a crossover. We'll see what's going on in Florida, talk some Sharks, Panthers, and then we got our first back-to-back this week, I believe, with the Canes and Lightning at the end of the week, if I remember correctly. So plenty of good content coming on here. We'll probably do a prospect check-in here soon, probably next week, as we've kind of got some players getting in, bigger sample size. Will Smith leading the Boston College Eagles right now with his 5 points in 4 games. So if you're, I was really enjoying people already worried about Will Smith being a bust, even though he's got 5 points in 4 games, as he is a freshman on one of the best teams, and he's contributing, right? Is his game perfect? No, but he's contributing, and I think he's going to iron stuff out. So We'll probably do a prospect check-in here next week as we get a little bit of time from when the Sharks finish their road trip and start their next homestand. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can subscribe on YouTube as well. You can also follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. And until tomorrow, bye, friends.